Father, we give you all the glory. You are my rock, my strength, and my trust. In you I live and move and have my being. You are my shelter, my peace, and my shield. You are my everything. You are worthy to be praised. You are my rock, my strength, and my trust. In you I live and move and have my being. You are my shelter, my peace, and my shield. You are my everything. You are worthy to be praised. Sweet Jesus, beautiful King, no Father like you, no friend like you. Your love for me is everlasting. No one like you, no one like you. Sweet Jesus, beautiful King, there is no Father like you, no friend like you. Your love for me is everlasting. No one like you, no one like you. Are my
All right, so good evening to you, everyone. Good morning to you. Good evening, good night, good morning, based on wherever you're watching us from. Okay, so right now it's actually night in the Nigerian time. It could be morning, it could be afternoon, or it could even be in the evening from wherever you're watching from. Of course, so we welcome you to the Seasoned Apologist Live. This is the ninth episode of the Seasoned Apologist Live. And we're so glad to have this program today. I know for the most of you, you know that we have this program at 1 p.m. the Nigerian time. And I know a couple of people have actually been sending messages. I want to have the program today. Then we have to point them to the fact that no, it's going to be 8 p.m. the Nigerian time. And that's the reason why we're having it this time today. So really want to welcome everybody to the program we're having today, to the show we're having today. And as I've seen on the poster, we're going to be talking about something very important today. We're going to be talking about this particular book, this particular Quran, as you have seen right in the poster. So this is the Quran we're going to be talking about today, and this is the Critical Qur'an. So right in the studio joining us is no other person than the author of this Quran, and that is the person of Robert Spencer. Robert Spencer is we're glad to have you here on the program today. How are you doing today, Robert Spencer?
Very good, very good. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good, good. Now, I know that you have a lot of things to do. You're such a very busy man. So I just want to say upfront that we're so glad, we're so happy to have you right here on the Seasoned Apologist Live today. We're so glad to have you today. And a couple of things before the program, when a lot of people have that we're going to be having this program, there's been a kind of interest. People really wanted to know about what this Quran is all about, because we have a lot of Quranic translation right from, the ages, and now we're having this particular one, the the Critical Qur'an. Some things they find it very, very difficult to to absorb. They're like, the Critical Qur'an, what is this all about? But then before we get into this, before we begin to get into the discussion of what this Quran is all about, folks, I want to let you know that Robert Spencer have written a whole lot of book. Okay, he's written several books. He's the one that wrote the book, the famous book on jihad. All right, and recently he wrote the book on Does Muhammad Exist? Did Muhammad exist? Actually, another bestseller. And then immediately after that, we have this gold mine right here, the Critical Qur'an. All right, so we're going to be talking about this book today, and I also want to say that after the discussion, we're going to be giving you guys the opportunity to ask questions on what we're going to be talking about today. If you have any questions concerning the book, and also as regard to the topic of discussion today, especially about this book, then you're going to be given that chance to ask that question, before the end of the program. All right, so again, we're so glad to have you here, Robert Spencer. So we're going to be asking you this question first off. I know that a couple of days ago, I think precisely in May of this year, the Critical Qur'an actually was removed from the best-selling number one category in the Quran, and then later it was removed from there into something like political, section and all that. Now, but before we even get into what this book is all about, why do you think that happened, Robert Spencer? Why do you think it was removed from the number one list, bestseller, actually in the list, the category of the Quran, to other categories? Why do you think that happened?
I don't know for sure, but I suspect that it's because people complained to Amazon and they said, how can you have the number one best-selling Quran be a Quran that's written by somebody who is not a Muslim and doesn't even approve of many things that the Quran says? And so Amazon immediately complied and removed it from the Quran category. But still, that's what it is. It's a Quran. And if you want what the Quran really says, it's in this book.
Awesome. Now, folks, for you to know, this is actually what it looks like. First off, when the book was actually, that's the Critical Qur'an, when it was on the bestseller, especially in the Quran section, this is actually what it looks like. As you can see, the Critical Qur'an is actually what is charting the top right there, okay, topping the chart, as the case may be. But then later it was actually removed, and then this is where you have, hit today. I mean, if you take a look at the chart today, you're taking a look at the bestsellers, especially in category of the Quran, you discover that the Critical Qur'an is no longer there. So it seems that the Muslims are not really happy about this Quran, just like Robert Spencer actually said. All right, so Robert, let's get into the discussion about this particular Quran. I've gone through this Quran, very fascinating, very interesting. We're going to be bringing out a couple of things that I've noticed right in the Quran. But then the question I'm going to be asking first off is that since we have a lot of translation of the Quran, why the Critical Quran? Why do we need to have the Critical Quran?
Well, in the first place, I found that I didn't like any of the translations of the Quran, that none of them are accurate. All of them have various kinds of weaknesses. And I've been working with them for 30 years now, and I found that I never found one that I thought this is a good one to use, and I'll just use this all the time. There are some that are actively apologetic. That is, they try to cover up what the passages say when they're inconvenient for Muslims. When they make people think, oh, this is not very good, this is not a religion I want to join, then they cover it up. Like Abdullah Yusuf Ali, most popular English translation of the Quran, made in 1930, published in 1934. And in chapter 4, verse 34, where it says, good women are obedient. As for those from whom you fear disobedience, give them a warning, send them to separate beds, and beat them. Abdullah Yusuf Ali says, beat them lightly. But there's no lightly in the Arabic, in the original Quran. And so I thought, well, I don't want to use this because it gives people the wrong impression. But then if you go to other translations of the Quran where they don't say beat them lightly, just beat them, as it says in the Arabic, then they have other weaknesses. So I thought what we need is a very clear English translation in modern English. This was important also because Abdullah Yusuf Ali and Muhammad Marmaduke Pickthall, two of the most popular English translations of the Quran, they write in old-fashioned English from the 17th century. Well, we don't speak old-fashioned English from the 17th century. So I thought what we need is a translation in modern English that is honest about what it says in the Arabic. And that's what the Critical Qur'an gives you.
Awesome. All right, so folks, before we even go any further, if you want to get the Critical Qur'an, just take a look at the description on the particular broadcast you're looking right now. If you're checking it out from Facebook, the description is actually there. The link to actually get this on Amazon is there. If you're watching us from YouTube, the link to get this also is actually right there on YouTube. So if you want to get it, you can actually get it. So let's move further. Okay, so that's the reason why we need the Critical Qur'an. Now, folks, one of the things that I've discovered when I was going through the Critical Qur'an is that it actually gives you the list of variant readings. And this is one thing that you do not have in I mean, the translation of the Quran that you have today. Talking about the Yusuf Ali, you do not have it. The Noble Quran by Lalikan, you do not have it. Soe International, you do not have it. Mamadou, you do not have it. I mean, I have a list of Qurans right here on my shelf, and these Qurans do not have the list of the variant reading. Now, of course, there is a particular Quran that came out, I think, last 2 years or so. This one tried to give a bit of, the list of the variant reading, all right? But then this is one Quran that gives you those list of variant reading. So as you're reading this Quran, you're able to see the variant reading that we have right in Quran. Remember the popular mantra by the Muslim apologists that the Quran has been preserved from right from the time of Muhammad even to now, dot for dot, letter for letter. So they give you the impression that all the Qurans that you have are the same. Okay, there is nothing different. But if you're going through this particular Quran, the Critical Qur'an, you discover that you have those variants written right there. And we're going to be taking a look at a couple of them. But I want to ask Robert Spencer, why do you include in this Quran the variant reading? Why that's in the Critical Qur'an?
Well, when you read a Bible, most editions of the Bible are editions that contain the variant readings. And this is because Christians have always been honest that there are some differences in biblical manuscripts. And this is not a challenge to the Christian faith. This is something that Christians have always taken for granted as being an important part of the study of the Bible to understand the variants. But Islamic apologists, as you said, Islamic apologists, they always have said for years now that Allah miraculously preserved the text of the Quran so that there was no variant anywhere. And I have several times tweeted put out on Twitter the recording of Yasser Qadi, very famous Islamic scholar, saying there's no variance, there's no change, every manuscript is exactly the same as every other. And this is plainly not true, and it's not honest, and is designed to mislead people, as a matter of fact, and make them join Islam by thinking that Allah is protecting the Quran in a way that he's not protecting the Bible. But the reality is there are plenty of variants. And so I thought this is going to be the first Quran, or the first mainstream published Quran, to have these variants listed so that people will see in the first place that they exist, and that the Quranic text has not always been exactly the same as the claim is.
Awesome. Now, folks, I'm going to be talking about the things that I noticed about the Quran so we can have interaction with Robert Spencer. But then let me just give you a glimpse of some of the things that you're going to be seeing in this book. And I want to recommend this for every Christian, all right? If you're a Christian, especially ministering to the Muslims, you need to get this. Now, if you're a Muslim watching this program also, and you want to know about the variant readings in the Quran, because, you have been told right from the childhood that the Quran is one, dot for dot, letter for letter, araka for araka. You'll be told all those things. But when you read this Quran, you're going to be seeing the variant readings right there. And I also dare to say that some of the variant readings you're going to be seeing here are the variant reading that changes the meaning. All right, because I've had some Muslim apologists saying, well, the variant reading that we have in the Quran, especially for those who admit it, they will say the variant reading that we have in the Quran is the one that is just minute. Okay, so you can read it this way, you can read it that way. But then there's some variant that we have right here that changes the meaning completely. All right, but then let us just take a look at a couple of some of these variants reading, especially as noted in the Quran. Now, Robert Spencer, I've actually known about a variant reading in the Quran, especially in the Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay, I know about the one in verse 4. Okay, that's the one that says, I'm actually reading from the Critical Qur'an right now. That's the one that says that's Surah Al-Fatiha, verse 4. It says, Master of the Day of Judgment. Okay, yeah. Actually, I've known before that the Watch actually read it as the King of the Day of Judgment instead of Master the Day of Judgment. Okay, but I never knew that there is another variant reading right there in verse 2 until I got this Critical Qur'an. And then in verse 2 it says, praise be to Allah, the Lord of the world. Okay, and you noted rightly here in the footnote of that, at least giving the variant reading right there in verse 2, you noted right there that it says, especially in the that's verse 2. I'm looking at the second paragraph right now. It says, instead of praise be to Allah, you noted there that the 17th century Shiite scholar Muhammad Bakri Majlisi has "We greatly praise Allah." All right, so that is another variant reading that I've just noted by going through this particular Quran, the critical Quran. So what it means is that apart from the ones that I know before, this also open up more variant readings that I don't even know about, and that's the reason why, as a Muslim, you want to make sure that you get this book. Now, I know that for some of you, you would be like, well, he's a Christian that actually made this, so he's an enemy of Allah and all of that. No, because what Robert Spencer has actually done right here is to give you what you know, what you need to know about your own book. All right, this is what your scholars are supposed to be telling you. So he's gone through the hard work right now, done the own work, okay, and then he's presenting it for you in this particular book. So again, I want to recommend this book to you if you are a Muslim. So apart from the Master of the Day of Judgment, and then we'll see also this variant reading right there that says "We greatly praised Allah." Now, another thing that I also want to point out, we're still going to be talking about some of these variant reading. Notice when we read this book, this Quran, that there are some certain words that you left out in the Arabic. You did not translate them to the English. So, for instance, the word jihad. Okay, so for the most part, I discovered that the word jihad is mostly, left in the Arabic that way. And also for the word Gehenna as well, I discovered that you left the word Gehenna also that way. I really want to ask, why did you leave this word this way? Why didn't you translate it as other, traditional translation of the Quran done by the Muslims?
Well, that I thought was one of the misleading aspects of the other translations, particularly about jihad, that jihad means struggle. Everybody knows that jihad means struggle. And so you see a lot of the English translations, they say, strive hard in the way of Allah. Now, the average English-speaking reader who doesn't know anything about Islam is going to read strive hard in the way of Allah and think, oh, this means I should pray more, I should be religious, I should go to the mosque, I should be a good person. And there is an aspect of that to it. However, to wage jihad, to strive in the way of Allah, is particularly associated with warfare in Islamic theology. So when you are going jihad fi sabilillah, you are taking up arms, you are fighting, and people are getting killed. And so I thought, if people are going to understand, English-speaking non-Muslims, that this is one of the passages that inspires people to do violence for Islam, then I have to keep jihad untranslated and leave it as it is in the Arabic. And then people will see wage jihad in the way of Allah and understand that a Muslim reading this is going to think, oh, I need to fight, I need to take up arms, not just fight by getting into a debate or something.
That's quite interesting. Now, talking about jihad, because I've gone through some of the notes, and folks, Robert has done a lot of work right here in this particular Quran. Now, take a look at this. You guys can see this. But then, if I actually wanted to show you Quran chapter 9, okay, Quran chapter 9, verse 29, and Robert actually supplied a lot of notes right there on that one verse alone. Quran chapter 9, verse 20. Now, I'm going to read the verse of the Quran. I'm just going to read in some of the note that he provided. In fact, this is one verse that I've read. I mean, I've looked at this verse before and checked a couple of textual and I did concerning this verse of the Quran. But this particular Quran, this critical Quran, just like the name, was able to give a lot of notes, in-depth notes, especially as to the verse of the Quran we're talking about. So we're talking about jihad. Quran chapter 9, verse 29. It says, fight against those who do not believe in Allah or the last day, and do not forbid what Allah and His Messenger are forbidding, and do not follow the religion of truth, even if they are from among the people of the book, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. Now, if you take a look at this verse of the Quran in the critical Quran, a lot of notes were actually provided right there. And when I was going through the notes, it was fascinating to me, things that I began to see right in this note. Now, one of the notes that I see right here was that that's that of the Ibn Juzai. Ibn Juzai actually says that this verse is a command to fight the people of the book because of their claim that Allah has a son. Can you imagine that? And then going further, that's the commentary now. Going further, Muslims must also fight them because they consider as lawful carrion, blood, pork, and etc. And because they do not enter Islam. All right. And it says that scholars agree about accepting jihad, a religious-based poll tax from the Jews and Christians, and adds that the Magians or Zoroastrians have been added to them by going by the words of the prophet. Treat them as the people of the book, although there is a disagreement about accepting it from idolaters, the Sabians, and then it goes on and on. So apart from the fact that we're reading from the text, what the text says about fighting and the people that should be fought against, we can see that the Critical Quran is going into the Islamic text, okay, the ones that are written by the Muslim scholars, and what they have to say about this is bringing it to the fore, and it's saying that this is actually what it's saying. So, and you know, we have a lot of Muslims saying, well, this jihad verse actually for defense and all that, and I've seen that you're taking care of all that in the Critical Quran, and that is the reason I'm so excited about the commentary that you provided right here. Now, the question I'm going to be asking, Robert, is that I know that when it comes to the issue of jihad, you are the go-to person. In fact, we're still going to be bringing you, back to the show to talk about the jihad. But then, why do you spend so much time in this particular Quran, the Critical Quran, to elucidate, to explain, and also to talk about the reality of jihad, especially as it concerns Islam?
Well, consider this. The average non-Muslim who is reading the Quran is interested in Islam because of jihad. It's only because Muslims have been killing people and raiding towns and blowing things up and flying planes into buildings and so on that they have any interest in finding out what's in the Quran. There are some people who are spiritual seekers and they want to know about all the religions, and they have plenty of Quran editions they can read, and they can read the Bhagavad Gita, and they can read all the other scriptures of all the various religions, and that's fine. But this Quran is designed to explain to people what it is about Islam that makes there be so much strife and so much difficulty around the world. And so that's one of the reasons why it's called critical, that it's a critical look at Islam and the Quran. It's not just, it's not an apologetic look at Islam and the Quran. You know, there are a lot of Quran editions that are designed to make you love Islam and think I should become a Muslim. And that's fine, that's their prerogative. But I wanted to give you an honest translation of the Quran that shows what's the difficulty? Why would anybody hesitate to think this is wonderful? And so when it comes to chapter 9, verse 29 and all those notes, this is very important because this is the passage where the Quran is very explicit about waging war against Jews and Christians.
That's really very interesting. In fact, to read the Tafsir of Al-Jalalain, I'm just drawing this out of the note that you have in Quran chapter 9, verse 29. It said the Tafsir of Al-Jalalain says that this verse specifies that Muslims must fight against those who do not follow Islam, which confirms and abrogates other religion. I mean, this is really fascinating. Okay, so what it means is that if you are a Muslim or a non-Muslim, and you're thinking that, well, jihad is just defensive, we're just trying to protect ourselves, that's why we're going into jihad. I mean, these notes, because we're not just reading the verse of the Quran alone, okay? We're getting to go into the text of the Muslims. We're taking a look at the tafsir, the interpretation, the commentary that the Muslims themselves are offering about this verse of the Quran. Now, going into the honest translation, because you talked about honest translation, when I was going through this Quran, I run up to Quran chapter 4, verse 34, and that famous verse for the beating of the wife. You mentioned that earlier. And in fact, I have a Quran right here in my shelf. What is the name of this Quran right now? Okay, that is the English translation of the Quran. Is Iran full Quran, something like that. Now, when it gets to Quran chapter 4, verse 34, it says that when you're supposed to beat your wife, you say you should leave them, okay, walk away from them. I mean, that is the way this particular Quran that I have in my shelf right here translated it, that you walk away from them. And I find that fascinating. Now, going through the Critical Quran, I also noted that you've actually taken care of that because you brought out different translation of the Quran, okay, that talks about this, how they translated it, and for the most part, most of this translation were, I mean, they were in agreement that this should be beaten. But then let me just go to that verse of the Quran. I want to read out this translation for people who are actually watching right now, so that by the time they get their copy, they can also confirm this for themselves. And that is Quran chapter 4. That's the Surah of Women, Quran chapter 4, verse 34. And I'm going to read your notes. I'm going to read the verse from the Critical Qur'an. I'm going to read your note as well, and then we'll see your comment out actually from the observation as well. Now it says men are in charge of women. I'm reading the Critical Qur'an right now. Men are in charge of women because Allah has made the one superior to the other, and because they spend of their property. So good women are obedient, guarding in secret what Allah has guarded. As for those from whom you fear disobedience, give them a warning and banish them to separate beds and beat them. This is what the Critical Qur'an says. And in your commentary, you noted a couple of Quran versions right here, translations right here. Picture actually says that scourge them. Okay, I mean, how clearer can that be? Scourge them. In fact, that is even worse than beating. Scourge them. Yusuf Ali actually says that beat them, but then in Arabic, sorry, in brackets, he puts lightly. And that is one point that Robert has mentioned about this book. This is not apologetic, all right? Now, for the most part, what Yusuf Ali is doing right there, he knows that it's going to be harsh for especially the Westerners who will be reading the Quran, that how can how can God sanction the beating of women, okay, of women? And then he had to say, okay, lightly, okay? And then we have Shakri. Shakri actually says beat them. Shah Ali actually says chastise them. I mean, that's so clear. Khalifa says it says then you may, as a last alternative, that is in bracket, beat them. Alberi says beat them. Rodwell says scourge them. Sales, that's just sales, chastise them. Assad says beat them. Then the study Quran says strike them. Oh my God. I have the study Quran right here. It says strike them. So International says strike them, and then it has likely in the bracket. And then, it goes on and on and on. In fact, you mentioned the Sublic Quran. But before we talk about Sublic Quran, now the point Robert is trying to make right from this Quran is that, most of the time, especially for those of you who are used to the Lalikan Quran translation, you discover that there's a lot of brackets. Okay, a lot of brackets in there to add into the text what the text is not even saying, okay, just to try to give a kind of understanding from their own point of view. But at the end of the day, you discover that the Quran has been so filtered that you nearly get the message that he wanted to, to have, or that he wants to communicate. And that is what Robert has actually done right here. Now, the question I'm going to be asking Robert right here is that, yeah, I know that, just like you said right from the very beginning, it is tiring for you to see a lot of translation that do not represent what they're saying, and that is the reason why you've gone ahead to do this. But then, when you were working on the Critical Quran, is this one of the things that you aim to achieve, to sanitize the Quran from all these brackets? And if that is the case, how do you think this is going to affect those that will be reading the Quran, especially the Critical Quran?
Well, yeah, a lot of the brackets, they're completely misleading. I mean, we spoke about the beat them lightly, but also in most Qurans, you have even ones that are relatively good translations. It'll say this to the unbelievers, and then in brackets, say, O Muhammad, this to the unbelievers. And so Muhammad is all over the Quran. But if you actually take out the brackets, Muhammad is only mentioned 4 times in the Quran. And so I thought a lot of these explanatory brackets are giving you an interpretative gloss that it may be right, but it's not in the text. And it's misleading people and making them assume the text is saying something that it isn't necessarily saying. And since, of course, I wrote, as you mentioned at the beginning, I wrote, did Muhammad exist? And I don't think the Quran is talking to Muhammad most of the time. When it says, say to the unbelievers, I don't want them to come in and say, oh, Muhammad, So, yeah, there are no brackets in this. This is just all what the Arabic text of the Quran says, rendered in English as carefully as possible to make it accurate.
That's interesting. All right, so for folks who will be getting this, Robert actually noted right here in the footnote. It talks about the Sublime Quran, and this is the way the Sublime Quran actually translated this. In fact, let me just read what Robert said right here before we move further. Robert noted here in our 2007 translation, the Sublime Quran, the Islamic scholar Laleh translates why, that is the Arabic word right now, why dribuna, okay, why dribuhuna, okay, that's the Arabic word, as go away from them. Can you imagine that? Okay, so that is the way she translated this. That instead of beating them, she translated it as go away from them. And of course, that is a lot of shift. I can agree with Robert right there that that is a lot of shift from what the Quran is actually saying. So, Robert, another translation or another verse that I wanted to take a look at is Quran chapter 2, verse 193. Okay, Quran chapter 2, verse 193. Because I checked a couple of verses, I see how it was actually translated, and most especially, I looked at the commentaries, the note that you have right there. So, Quran chapter 2, verse 193. This is the opening. Okay, I'm actually trying to get to I'm actually, excuse me, I'm actually right there now. Okay, Quran chapter 2, verse 193 says, and fight them until there is no more, and religion is for Allah. But if they stop, then let there be no hostility except against the wrongdoer. So I actually looked through the notes and I see what has been written right there. And in fact, I want to say that Robert Spencer had actually done a lot of work right here. Because right from the verse of the Quran we're taking a look at, a lot of notes were provided, okay, from Ibn Kathir and some others. Okay, so let me just read one of the notes and then we'll move further. It says, the command to fight until persecution fitna is no more, and the religion for Allah alone reveals that there is an aspect to the warfare enjoined by the Quran that is not purely defensive, okay? This is really very important because when the Muslims are talking about the jihad, they talk about jihad as defensive, okay? This is actually defensive, not offensive, okay? Then Robert moved further to say, Muslims must continue to wage war, Allah prevail over the world, which implies a conflict without end until that goal is attained. And then he moved further to quote, one of the scholars. He says, Ibn Hisham, okay, explained that this passage means that Muslim must fight against the unbeliever until God alone is worshipped, which makes for a long war. Can you imagine that? How can Muslim explain this? I mean, if they are telling us that this is all about, jihad is all about defensive, okay? It's all about defending themselves. It's not offensive. How can they explain this? And then even Ibn Kathir actually go further to explain this as well. It says, Ibn Kathir explained that the verse means that Muslims must fight so that the religion of Allah becomes dominant over all other religion. Now, the question we're going to ask ourselves is, as the religion of Allah becomes dominant over all religion, the answer is no. So if it has not become dominant over all religion, what it means is that the Muslims need to continually fight. All right? And that is the reason why we're having this, fighting all over the places, because the Muslims want to obey this verse of the Quran and other verses in the Quran as well. Okay, so Robert, let's talk about the variant reading a bit. You have a couple of them right there. Let's talk about some of them that you have noted. And folks, one of the things that you will note when you're reading this book, okay, the Critical Qur'an, is that as you're checking verses in the Quran, you begin to note, without you even asking for it, okay, without you asking for it, Robert has actually noted a lot of variance reading right here, okay, and that's one fascinating thing that I like about the study Quran. So if you just open up a random page, even though there are a couple of them right here, if you open up a random page, you see that you're going to be having, variants from one place to the other. And we're going to be taking a look at a couple of them right here. So I'm going to open to Quran chapter 3, okay, Quran chapter 3, verse 79. Quran chapter 3, verse 79. And here's what the verse says. It is not for any human being to whom Allah had given the book and wisdom and the prophethood that it should afterward have said to mankind, be slaves of me instead of Allah. Be slaves of me instead of Allah, but be faithful servants of the Lord, because you are teaching the book and because of your constant study of it. All right. Now, if you take a look at that verse of the Quran, that's Quran chapter 3, verse 79. Now, Robert actually supplied notes right there, okay, but then at the end of the notes, he noted a variant reading right there. It says, instead of you are teaching the book, excuse me, you are teaching the book, which is tualimun, okay, that is the Arabic word right there, tualimun, okay, that's the Arabic word. Instead of that, the Warsh actually has it that you know the book, all right, and that is talamun. Now, that is a great difference, okay. It is one thing for you to be teaching a book, it's another thing for you to know that book. So what is the Quran actually saying here? Is the Quran saying that you are teaching the book, or is that you know the book? All right. Now, that's the reason why, as a Christian, you need to get the critical Quran, because you can show your Muslim friend, okay, you can show them that indeed there are variant readings in the Quran. A lot of them do not know. They try to deny it. Now, Rob Spencer, I know that, yes, even till now, some Muslims are still denying that the Quran has variant reading. It is one all over the world and all that. This is a good job you've done, especially for Christians, to be able to show very, very easily to their Muslim friends how they can, get to know that they are variant reading in the Quran. Now, what do you think the effect to be on the Muslims by the time they begin to see variant reading the Quran? What do you think the reaction will be? Will the Muslims accept that there are indeed variant Quran in the Quran? And if they accept that, how do you think it's going to be affecting the argument for the perfect preservation of the Quran?
Well, I can tell you what the reaction has been so far. That I've had Muslims come to me and say, what do you mean you're the first one to put the variant readings? This is ridiculous. Every third grader learns about all the variant readings and the various qira'at of the Quran, that it was recited in different dialects to Muhammad. And this is Islamic tradition, that Muhammad got the Quran in 7 different versions. And that's all this is. And so every one of them, you see, is protected by Allah. But this is a fallback position, because as I noted earlier, most Islamic apologists in the West were saying, up until the variant readings became generally known, they were saying there are no variants, and the Quran has been always the same. And I will still find people coming to me and saying, you're just talking about differences of pronunciation. There's not any difference in wording. But there is difference in wording. And most of the time, they are now saying that Allah wanted all the differences. But I don't know if they're going to be able to sustain that, because it gets to be kind of absurd that you're saying there are all these different ways that Allah communicated the same message. Well, why would he bother? Why not just one way? And so I don't know if it's going to work, but that's what I'm hearing so far.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, so now, folks, I want to just let you know, if you have any question to ask Robert Spencer, please do send your question right there in the comment section, and you know how we do it. If you want to ask a question, make sure you type the word question in capital letter and then let it be followed by a question. That way we can differentiate between the questions, okay, and also the comment that you're having right in the comment section. So if you have any question for Robert Spencer, especially concerning the critical Quran and also what we'll be talking about so far, please, you can put in your question, and then we can actually take in your question. Now, Robert, you actually gave us a bonus in the critical Quran, and I don't know if you actually know what I'm going to be talking about right now. The bonus you actually gave us right here is after Surah Al-Nas, which is actually the 114th chapter of the Quran, and the last one in the traditional Quran. You gave us 2 bonuses of 2 surahs, all right, from the Shiites. And you call it the 2 Apocryphal Shiite surahs. Can you tell us a bit about these 2 surahs, and then so that people that are watching can get a feel of that?
Yes, it's important in the first place to note that Shiites generally say they do not accept these two chapters, but they do exist. They've been circulating for hundreds of years. They're in some old manuscripts. And so consequently, I thought it's kind of in line with the variant readings, you see, to show that there are actual whole chapters that circulate. And these are very Shiite oriented. They're just designed to show that the Shiites are right and the Sunnis are wrong. and there's really no other content to them. The rest of it is just imitation and kind of semi-quotations of various Quran passages that are in the 114 chapters. But I included them because they show, like the variant readings do, that there was a lot of fluidity and slippage in the Quranic text. It was not always exactly the same the way we're told today. And so even just more recently, in the last few hundred years, there were obviously some Shiites who were thinking that they could get away with adding actual chapters to the Quran, and that's what these are.
All right, thank you for that. And I think we have a couple of comments right there that is coming in form of a question. So folks, while you're sending your question, make sure that you do so quickly, because we're going to be wrapping up the show very soon. We don't want to keep Robert waiting, and we don't want to keep him as much as we can. No, we just want to make sure this is 1 hour, and then after that we are done. All right, so here's Kim of Africa. Kim of Africa is actually saying, but Muslims claim that the variant has been there from the beginning, claiming Allah revealed them that way, and also that the Quran did not come in written format but memorization. Robert, what do you have to say concerning this comment?
Yeah, that's quite right, actually. That's what they're saying now, that these are just the different ones that Allah, different versions that Allah revealed. It seems to me to be pretty clear that that is an explanation that was made up. Actually, it wasn't made up by the modern day Islamic apologists. This is a story that was made up in the 9th century, that the whole idea that Allah would reveal, see, you have one Allah, you have one prophet, you have one book, and it's one revelation. It's supposed to be one divine truth. And then suddenly we're told that, there's all these different versions of it. Why? There's no explanation for that. It's the only reason why these stories were constructed in the 9th century, and that's when they come from, 200 years after Muhammad. The only reason why these stories were constructed about Allah revealing the Quran in various different forms is to explain why there are different forms. Is to explain why there's not a single Quranic text if there's one Allah and one revelation to one prophet. But it's very clear that the real reason is that the Quran was developed out of various different sources and put together, and some people put it together in different ways, or it was copied when it was copied and people made mistakes and they changed passages. And so you have just the same kind of slippage you would have with any human document. And that's the whole point, that it's a human document and not one that's divine.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so somebody's actually asking right here, how can we get the book? Okay, so I would just say simply go to Amazon, and if you're watching this program right now, just check the description. Okay, take a look at the description right on Facebook or YouTube. The link to get the book is actually on the description box. Okay, you can get it on Amazon, but then another quick way you can actually get is very simple. Just type the Critical Qur'an right in Google. It will take you to where you could get it from. Robert, do you have anything to say about that? Where they can actually get the book?
I don't have any better ideas than that. Yes, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever, anybody. I mean, as far as getting it to Nigeria, I don't know how that's done, and I wish I hope it works.
Okay, so yeah, actually, basically, what happened is that one of my friend, a friend and somebody I would consider a supporter, actually sent this. I think he got it from where he stays, outside of Nigeria, obviously. So when he came into Nigeria, he actually handed this copy over to me. So I did not get it from Amazon directly. The person got it and then handed it over to me. But I think it can be ordered from Amazon, from wherever you are in the world. Yeah. So you can actually get it. So Udbeba, Simon G, you can actually get it on Amazon if you want to get it. So I'm trying to see if we have any question right here again. Okay. I have not actually
put the long one up. Put the long one up.
Okay. Let me see that.
The one about me.
Oh, is that Arudin, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I wanted to point out something about this. In the first place, do you think I've been notably emotional during this discussion? Am I Am I weeping? Am I shouting?
Not
See,
at all.
this is a very common thing, and that's why I asked you to put it up, my friend, because see what he's saying, it's absolutely true. Most of what Wikipedia has is lies, but it is true that my family is from Turkey and they were exiled because they were Christians. But then he says he's not an honest researcher. Okay, why don't you show where there's a lie? Why don't you show where there's something inaccurate? And that's what nobody's able to do. That when I even see videos about this book, and they're about typographical errors. And I'm sorry there are typographical errors in the book, but the typographical errors are not, that's not a mistake, that's not a lie. And the thing that Islamic apologists always do, and this guy is an example of it, this is a very common tactic. In the first place, they attack the person and not the idea. You know, we've been talking about various things, about chapter 9, verse 29, chapter 4, verse 34, various other things throughout this program. You notice he doesn't say anything about that.
Definitely.
He only attacks me personally. And then he says I'm lying, but not a single example of a lie. And many times on Twitter, I have people come and say, you're lying. I say, okay, show me one lie. And they never have yet.
All right, so Arulo, if you feel that all that we're saying right there is a lie, then you can just confirm it yourself. And most especially if you're talking about the variant reading, if you're saying the variant reading that Robert Spencer is pointing out to in the Critical Qur'an is a lie, then what about the one that is made by a Muslim? All right, this one is made by a Muslim, the British translation of the 10 Qur'at of the Noble Quran. This book, this particular Quran, is filled with variant reading, and this one is made by Muslims. So I can understand, probably if you have not heard of this before, your scholars, your teachers, your malim have not told you before that there are variants in the Quran. You are the one being emotional right now, okay? I know you might feel pain that, why is this coming from a Christian, Robert? I mean, it should have been coming from your own scholar, but it's coming from a Christian. So you don't need to be emotional. What I would encourage you to do is to go back and investigate what Robert has said and ask your malam, your teacher, ask them, is there indeed variant in the Quran? Okay, ask them and take a look at some of the examples that we've just given. And I mean, I just gave you a tip. There are a lot of variant reading that Robert has noted in the Critical Qur'an. I'll take a look at the one we just mentioned. It's one thing for you to know a book, it's another for you to teach the book. I mean, those two are not the same. Okay, if I'm saying Korede knows the book, okay, and I say Korede is teaching the book, I mean, those are two different statements. All right, and that is what we're talking about. So don't get emotional, Arolo. Get into, in fact, I want to encourage you to get a copy of this book, okay, of the Quran. Get a copy of this, take a look at it, and then go to your scholars and ask them, really, is this thing actually true? All right, that's what I will encourage you to do, Arolo. And I want to see if there are other questions right here. So I'm not actually seeing. Okay, so Arolo is actually putting up another comment again. Do you want to respond to that before we call it a day? Here's a comment from. Okay, so I think there is a question right there, but let's just take a look at Arolo's comment. It says, his hatred and aversion is grounded in an experience and encounter of his family with Muslims. It is not logical to take an action of certain Muslim judges. However, this has nothing to do with his, it has nothing to do with his experience with any Muslims. I mean, Robert is presenting a fact right here in this book, a fact that is recognized by your own scholars. All right, Robert, what do you have to say about this?
Well, see, this again, the Islamic apologists always lie. And he says it's not logical to take an action of some certain Muslims to judge others, as if I'm doing that. Okay, quote me, where did I ever do that? And he would not be able to find any time when I've actually done this. But this again is what they do. They say you say things you didn't say, and they say you have base motives, but they can't say anything you're saying is false.
All right, so here's a question. Yeah, here's the question. I think this should be the last question. If we have one more, we can take it. But then here's the question that is coming from Oni Oland. By the way, this gentleman right here is a big fan of you. So here's the question is asking, can Spencer recommend a text or text as the case may be for the study on Islamic history?
Yes, actually, well, if you'll pardon the reference, I wrote a book myself called The History of Jihad in 2018. And that traces jihad throughout Islamic history from Muhammad all the way. Well, actually, that's the subtitle, The History of Jihad from Muhammad to ISIS. And that is the only book that gives you jihad all around the world and all through time from the start of Islam until now. And so there's that. There is also, I can recommend the writings of the historian Batya Or, who wrote The Decline of Eastern Christianity under Islam and Islam and Dimitude, very important books for Islamic history, specifically regarding the treatment of non-Muslims under Islamic law throughout history.
Thank you very much for that recommendation, Brother Spencer. Then I think this is going to be the last one we're going to be taking right from here. So this person is asking, please, I hope this live session is recorded. I came in late. I want to watch it all over from start to the start of the program. Kindly notify me of the recorded. Okay, so Jerry, this program is being recorded. So immediately we're done with the program, you can watch it all over again. All right, immediately we're done with the program, you can watch it all over again. It's actually going to be there from, you're watching from Facebook, as we can see. So right there on that Facebook page, you can watch this program all over again. You don't need to wait for 1 day, 24 hours. No, it's going to be right there on Facebook. All right. Okay, so I think that is the last we're going to be taking. And then here's the one from Muturai Aditola is saying, thanks, Seasoned Apologist, appreciated. Yeah, we also appreciate Robert Spencer, who is actually giving us the privilege to have him on the show today. Now, folks, I can't promise this, but I want you to hear from Robert Spencer himself. Robert, would you be willing to come again another time, not next week? Would you be willing to come again another time on the program to talk to us about jihad? We'd like to hear from you about jihad.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We'll set up a good time that works for both of us. I'd be honored to come back.
Awesome, awesome. So, folks, you've heard it from Robert Spencer, and we're going to be looking forward to having him again on the program, so he can, come to talk to us about jihad. By the way, Robert Spencer actually has a website called www.jihadwatch.com. Is it .com or .org?
Both work.
Oh, awesome. All right. So if you go to the jihad.org, www.jihad.org or jihad.com,
Jihad Watch.
Any one of those.
It is Jihad Watch.
Oh, sorry, Jihad Watch. I'm sorry about that. So exactly. So that is jihadwatch.com or jihadwatch.org. If you go to any of those, you can actually see some of the books that Professor Spencer has written and get to see daily updates. I mean, if not daily, but you begin to get updates about jihad happenings all over the world. I mean, these things happen almost every day. And Robert has been able to do this for over the years. I mean, he's been able to catalog activities of jihad all over the world, all right? But in fact, there are some of these things that happen in Nigeria, and before you know it, you already have it, on Jihad Watch, all right? So, folks, I really want to encourage you to go to that website, and it has a subscription button right there. So if you want to subscribe just to get updates about the news as they're coming, you can actually put in your email right there, and you'll be able to get more information and updates as they come in. So again, I really want to appreciate Robert Spencer for coming on the show. It was actually a bit difficult getting him. Why? Because he was very, in fact, he's a very busy man, but I'm so glad they were able to have him on the show. So Robert, really want to appreciate you. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you for the good work that you're doing. And I pray that the Lord will continually strengthen you, protect your family. And in fact, you need that much of a protection, because a couple of times, there have been a couple of attempts because of what you're doing. Is a very risky one. But then we pray that the Lord will continually protect you. So again, thank you very much. God bless you. And do you want to mention a couple of places people can find you online, just in case they want to know more about the things that you do? Can you just mention a couple of places they can find you online?
Yes, certainly. Well, you noted jihadwatch.org. I'm also at Jihad Watch RS on Twitter. On Amazon, there's an author page. You can find all the books. And there is a Facebook page, but it's very hard to find.
Yeah, I noticed that also. Now, folks, I'm going to be linking to all of those things all of those links that Robert has mentioned. I'm going to put them in the description box so you can have easy access to them. All right, all of those websites and the links is mentioned. And I think Facebook is also doing a kind of trick right there, because I don't know what happens sometimes. when you have a page that is talking about jihad or anything Islamic, it gets reported and then it gets listed under the Islamophobic category, such that you don't get to reach a lot of people. And I think that is actually what is happening to Robert's page again. Again, I really want to appreciate you, Robert, for coming on the program today. Thank you very much. God bless. So we're going to be having you again on the program, Lord willing. Yes. Somebody's saying I'm following you on Twitter. In fact, we have a fan right there that is already following you on Twitter. All right. So without much ado, thank you again for your time. We don't want to take much of your time. Thank you again for coming on the show. And then, Lord willing, we're going to be having you again. Thank you very much. And then God bless you. So we want to say bye for now, Robert. Thank you. All right, so folks, thank you for staying with us till the end of the program today. I know it's actually very difficult for some of you because we're doing this program very late, 8 p.m. the Nigerian time instead of 1 p.m. Nigerian time. Again, so really want to appreciate those who are able to join us for the program, especially for this time. And also want to appreciate all those who have been supporting us, all right? Who have been supporting us for all of the things that we do. Really want to appreciate folks that have been supporting us, especially those that have been praying for us as well. Really want to appreciate you guys. Okay, so as you can see at the back right here, discover that we have a new bookshelf right here. This is a courtesy of the support that you guys had actually been able to provide. And as you can see, these are Qur'ans right here. You can see these Arabic Qur'ans. We're going to be talking about this ones very soon. And then, yeah. So, folks, really want to appreciate you. Now, Lord willing, next week, we're going to be talking about a very important topic of discussion. I know you guys actually know about the incidents that happened to Salman Rushdie, okay, a couple of weeks ago. How so actually attempted to kill him. So next week, Lord willing, we're going to be having, somebody to come on the show. Of course, you know this person, but then I will mention his name until the poster comes out. So tomorrow you're going to be seeing the poster, and then we're going to be talking about Salman Rushdie, okay, Salman Rushdie, and then we're going to be talking about the satanic verse as well. So that will be Salman Rushdie and the truth about the satanic verse. So you want to make sure you stick to that because it's going to be enlightening, it's going to be interesting. We're going to be getting more information about the satanic verse. Now, if you want to reach out to us, we're actually on the social media. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. If you want to reach out to us, you can actually do that right from the screen as you're seeing right now. On Facebook, we are Seasoned Apologist. On Instagram, we are Seasoned Apologist. Also on Twitter, we are Season A. On YouTube, we are Seasoned Apologist. And if you want to reach out to us via Twitter, via WhatsApp, you can actually do that by doing +234 8127 999 591. If you're out of Nigeria, outside of Nigeria, you need to add the country code. That's +234. If you're within Nigeria, you can just do 08127 999 591. If you want to support what we're doing, if you like what we're doing and you want to support us, you can actually go to www.seasonedapologist.com/support. Okay, so by going to that particular link, you'll be able to see how you can get to support us right there. If you also want to visit our website, you can do that by going to www.seasonedapologist.com. If you want to send us an email, you can actually do that by sending us an email, and that the email is info@seasonedapologist.com. Again, that is info@seasonedapologist.com. Again, I really want to appreciate everyone who's been on the program right from the very beginning, even till now. Please keep praying for us, okay, so that we can do what the Lord has committed into our hands. Also pray for all the apologists all over the world, ministering to the Muslims and also defending the faith as well. Pray that the Lord will protect them, will guide them, and the Lord will help them to fulfill the ministry He's committed into their hands. Again, my name is Korede Olawoyin. Please stay safe. I'm right here in Nigeria. Coronavirus seems to be surfacing again. Chickenpox is also, ravaging at this point in time. So, but from wherever you are in the world, I want to pray that the Lord will protect you, keep you safe, guide you, and then keep you for His own glory. Again, my name is Korede Olawoyin. I see you next week. Thank you very much, and bye for now.
We love you, Lord, we love you. Father, we give you all the glory. You are my rock, my strength, and my trust. In you I live and move and have my being. You are my shelter, my peace, and my shield. You are my